The scintillating presentations taking a cinematic journey through dancers' mind and various camera angles. Here we are at the second part of DanzLenz Destination Northeast session, where we would like to have a dialogue with all the artists and filmmakers who have put forward their thoughts into motion. Dance in motion. So again, I would like to invite Dr. Arshia Sethi, who curated this entire series, to take forward the discussion.
Kri Foundation presents Direction Northeast, conversations with filmmakers and dancers.
This, ladies and gentlemen, has been the wonderful showcase of dance films from the Northeast, titled provocatively Direction Northeast. It has spanned over many aspects of the Northeast, from its beautiful landscapes to its defining river, to its spiritual thoughts, to its many communities, costumes, colors, the decoding of some of the more esoteric arts. And it has been truly a feast for the mind and the eye. Our next segment is going to be on the conversations with the dancers and filmmakers. Some of these conversations were recorded in advance over the last few days because we've had uncertain power connections and there is actually a uneven digital network. Hello Shilpikas. So wonderful to see you and so wonderful to see your new work. Now I've noticed that possibly because you live on the banks of the Brahmaputra, that it has played such a constant role in your creative work. Talk a little bit about that.
A very important part of my work is to bring the ancestral wisdom and indigenous knowledge systems into the heart of our existence. In the last few years, a big part of my work has been to research, document, and to create essential dialogue and conversations around it. Now, the river Brahmaputra is the spine in Assam and other places in this region. Hence, a lot of my stories and the practices are connected to the river. However, I'm also working on another project, for example, with the one with musical instruments, which are coming from the hills and the plains of Assam. And the stories are elemental, but not necessarily riverine. So my work is about the self, nature, and community, and to talk about the essential knowledge that has been passing down from generations, but is at the risk of vanishing.
So what are the conversations that this river compels you to take up?
There's so many conversations that the river compels, actually. Right now, I have an excerpt from my journal from the days of shooting this film that I would like to read. There were 2 boats, some cows, a strange young girl, the bridge in front of me, and the marshes. The boats were wet and stinking of fish. We took our time and I got into the boat and Kamal filming the beginning of this very personal dialogue. I checked the boat hesitant and confident and got surrounded by the sounds of the wetlands of Majuli. There was an amazing visual of light smoke from the water. I just sat in different places, touched the boat, felt the moment of existence in that setting. The beginning is perhaps the most special moment of a creative process, and the first impressions on my body felt were very rich. I observe boats like these can look unused and old, but they aren't. Boats after fishing transform into the fish in the morning, with the stink of the dead ones and the stagnancy of the water inside. Boats are really balanced. The boats are made from the azar trees mostly. I was conscious of the camera and at times I hid. There was a synergy, an unspoken understanding with Kamal. Space is such an important element. The architects or the creators of the boats created an island that floats out of elements. The space of a proscenium sometimes becomes as big as the cosmos. And being in the outdoor setting was an overwhelming visual of the magic of the cosmos.
Two very interesting features. The boat, which I also find coming up in your work very frequently. And in this particular work, I want to talk to you about the colors that you have used, the color palette for the costumes.
I'm so inspired by boats and I love boats for so many reasons. The logo of Brahmaputra Cultural Foundations, which is an NGO that I founded, is actually a boat which was designed by my friend and collaborator Manish Kansara while we were on a boat returning from Majuli Island. So I think, the way the country boats and the boats which have been featured on this particular film are so elemental and they are so without really using much modern machinery. And the generation of boat makers and this kind of a knowledge system is really, really vanishing. And it is just so beautiful in the way that it is so simplistic. And at the same time, it is so connected to the practices and for example, in one scene, you will see that there is a boat and people are sitting around it and praying. That happens in the Palnam of Auniati Satra. And the film ends with this guha or the devotional prayer where the devotee is singing about how how he can cross over. He's praying to God to help him to cross over, to make that journey from this lifetime to another. So basically, it's about boats in from the angle of philosophy, from the aspect of the materiality, the texture, from the essential knowledge of the generations.
You are watching conversations with filmmakers and dancers featured in the curation Direction Northeast, dance films from a land deeply loved.
Anjana, what a wonderful film. It carries the bhakti element so beautifully. Now, I wanted to ask you, you've been very busy during the lockdown and the COVID pandemic, making films, showing new choreographies on social media. Do you just make choreographies for the camera, record your choreographies and share it on social media, or are you serious about the work on dance films?
Well, this is my first experience as a dance filmmaker. Basically, I am a classical dancer. I do Sattriya as well as Odissi. So we had some time during the time of lockdown. So different thought came into my mind and I wanted to do something different. And that's how the making of film has come out. This is my first experience, of course.
I've seen how beautifully you've been able to capture the moods and vignettes of life around the Satra, its arts, and the whole spirit that pervades through Satras. Now, do you use your film as an educational film as well? Because I ask this question from the fact that I do believe that in this 5 minutes, you've given us a very good understanding of Satra culture.
Being a dancer, I wanted to make a dance film where I can concentrate on music and dance. But besides this, I wanted to show you the inside of the Satra, actual culture of Assam. So that's how I have actually taken the shoots in the premises of Satra in the Namghar. I wanted to show you how the Bhakta they offer their prayer to deity. That's why I have taken the scene inside the Satra, inside the Namghar. People can witness the inside of the Satra, the gate, and how the culture, the Onkiya Bhavana, that is Natak, Onkiya Natak, and then the Mukha, it's a mask, and then some kind of practices that is done by monk in the Satra. So I have taken all those images in the film, and by seeing this film, one can understand what is actually the culture of Assam, the culture of Satra, and the entire culture of Sattriya. That was in my mind, and I actually what you are saying that it becomes a educational film. It is.
Music is such an important part of your work, particularly in this film. It conveys that bhakti rasa on which the dance glides. How do you balance the musicality element of dance and the dance element in a dance choreography?
Music has certain characteristics that takes us in a certain way. It gives us happiness, it takes us to the sadness, sorrow, anywhere in the world. Music actually speaks louder than dialogue. So, as a dancer, of course, I concentrated on music because the music plays an important part in the dance. So, in this dance film, I have taken a Guru Bandhana which was written by Sri Madhav Dev, who was the prime disciple of Srimant Sankardeva. So it starts with a prayer, a pranam. We takes the bow to the deity, and then it starts. And then afterwards, I have taken some rhythm pattern which we have used from the pure dance of Sattriya, and gradually it grows up. You can see the pattern, the rhythm in the part of the dance. So with the going with the rhythm, I am taking some pictures, some images, some part from the Satra. From the inside of the Satra, I have taken some pictures and trying to show you the entire culture of Sattriya. And that's how I tried my level best to balance the music, dance, and the art form fully.
You are watching conversations with filmmakers and dancers featured in the curation Direction Northeast, dance films from a land deeply loved.
Hello, Aseng. When I was first introduced to this film, I was so excited to click on it. I realized that it could be anything, a dance film or a music film. So, what did you conceive it as?
I think movement and dance are almost synonymous. As a practitioner, I don't think I see any difference between them. And movement and music have been constant collaborators for the last few centuries. In fact, it is evident in many forms that are present both in movement and music, which will give us the evidence that they have always been constant collaborators. As a choreographer, myself, I have been making and creating dance films since the beginning of my practice. But I think every time I create a dance film, or I am shooting a footage or I'm shooting a video, I don't think there is an intention to movement, but I don't think I could ever directly predict what the outcomes of those footage will be, or the what kinds of formats will the footage have. I don't think I would even like to know it at the point of shooting, or at the point of process of what the outcomes are.
Now, this combination of band, dancer, poet, poetry, it's a very heavyweight combination. And I wonder how you managed to put it all together. Was it consciously thought out as a process? Did it just simply get layered on each other? Or was it a happy coincidence that all these independent arts came together in this dance film?
So, me and Venus, the filmmaker, we have worked on other dance film projects and other music video projects prior to this. Miwak came across one of such videos and approached us, and they wanted to collaborate with us uh, on their song. So because we also liked their music and we have been following them for some time, we decided to go ahead with the collaboration. And during discussions, we decided to play an experiment, as Miwak gave us that liberty to do so. And then we landed upon this footage. This footage is actually from an ongoing dance film project. The dance film project also talks about journeys, roads, and maps, and therefore we felt like the footage fit very well with the lyrics, and the music video was born. I think therefore the process was very organic.
You are watching conversations with filmmakers and dancers featured in the curation Direction Northeast, dance films from a land deeply loved.
Sujit, once again, I want to compliment you on your amazing work. Now, both the dance films that you offered us, Ima Ketil and RKCS, are films that were made part of a joint project. So, I want you to tell us a little bit about how this project happened and other details about this project.
These two films, RKCS and Imam Market, are shot during this high peak of pandemic in 2021. This project was for called Map of Shadow. It was premiered in 2021 for Spark Festival organized by Art Gallery. And I take the granted of using or collaboration with the landscape, I will say. And I also wanted to share to people what is going in Manipur during this period of pandemic, and also taking the historical painting from RKCS, which is painted by Rajkumar Chandrajit Sana, reviving the old history, which was the epidemic period during this 19th century of Manipur.
I want to ask you a political question, or at least a question that sounds a little political. We've been talking a lot about AFSPA in recent times, and Manipur has dealt with AFSPA for such a long period. So, my question to you is, do tough times, do the restrictions of AFSPA, does that heavy weight of AFSPA on the life of people actually serve as a catalyst for creative thinking?
I always take my body whenever I go, and that is already a big politics for me. Because whenever I travel, I'm from Manipur, and that's already tell a lot of story to people who don't know about the Manipur. And I also carry the story and also some issue what is going around. So it's not necessarily about what topic you are carrying, but about what topic you are carrying during your work. But the most important is my body and my identity is always Manipur, and that's is what how body carry their politics wherever they go.
You are watching conversations with filmmakers and dancers featured in the curation Direction Northeast, dance films from a land deeply loved.
Anwesa, how nice to see this film again. I remember it was part of Chakshu. In fact, it was day 3 of Chakshu. Chakshu, you remember, was this huge curation of dance films. So, my question to you is first about the name. What does it mean, and how did you come to decide on that name?
Thank you so much for that question. Sakhi, the film itself, it includes a multi-layered understanding of the entire process of the dancer into the making of dance. So, at first layer, you would see the literal text. At the second layer, you would see how the dancer takes a flight of imagination from that literal text, and where we use the method of a stream of consciousness, like there is a flow of imagination as the dancer goes on interpreting the text, and finally the dance. And this particular thing has been used in a kind of cyclic way, which shows the entire process of making the dance by the dancing self. So here at various points you would see the dancing self in its solitude. So interestingly, though Sakhi means companionship, we have tried to explore the entire interpretation of solitude as a companionship to the dancing self, who again with as I said, journeys an imaginative flow with the text or with the interpretations, and that helps in finally the making of the dance.
My second question is about how poetic this work is. How, for instance, did you choose the poetry, and how did you balance the evocativeness of a dance film, which also has its other side that can be quite hard hitting? So, how do you find for yourself this balance and point of liminality or in-betweenness?
Well, I take the poetic part as a compliment to the entire narrative, and thank you so much for saying that. Yes, definitely. We try to give that poetic outlook or poetic perspective to the whole representation of the entire flow of the movements, both dance-wise and camera angle-wise too. Now, coming to your question directly to who's dominating, dancer or the filmmaker, I think it has to be a combined effort, and both me and Janardhan, who directed the entire thing, we sat together planning each and every angle, each and every frame, what would come after following the word, and what would be the best. But also I would like to say that the moment we arrived at the site, sometimes the context, the site itself demanded a change, and that's how it was also organic. The dancer do need to understand the entire motion of the camera, because it's the space is not just the physical space, but also the camera space in which it will be captured. So for me, that was a very interesting process, because I imagined the whole frames. I, along with Janardhan, we both sat together imagining both the frames through the camera angle, and at the same time, definitely the physical space, the site, also played a very important role, because the moment we arrived at the site, though we planned something different, it demanded something different. And sometimes, again, keeping the camera angle in mind, we again improvised.
You have made hundreds of dance choreographies for the stage, big and small. How do you feel that the process of making a dance choreography is different from a dance film?
Actually, the whole process was itself like a choreography. The moment we are into a physical space as dancer, we utilize that space and create many frames through our imagination and our interpretation. The same thing has been applied even here, but here the understanding of space got a very interesting shift, because it's not just a physical space, it's also the virtual space or the digital space where your movements are getting captured. So that was a very interesting dimension of understanding the space, where the space and gets extended. So it was definitely a choreography where it's not just a dance and dancers' perspectives, but also the editor's perspectives and the camera men's perspective. That also became a part of the whole choreographic process. So dance and camera is actually altogether different dialogue, which we do need to understand with a different understanding of an exploration of space. And we tried our best with our understanding, and as I said, it's always a beginning at each and every level, so the exploration will continue in future too, I hope.
You are watching conversations with filmmakers and dancers featured in the curation Direction Northeast, dance films from a land deeply loved.
Mridusmita, what a lovely film. I know that you must have done it during the Gandhi's quincentennial celebrations, but that was pre-pandemic, and at that time there were live shows that were happening. What made you think at that time to choose a dance film over a live performance?
As a Sattriya artist, I've always strived to do something better, something different. I've always wanted to be a better version of myself as an artist, and I've always wanted to contribute to the society. You know, the year 2019 was the 150th birth anniversary of the father of our nation, Mahatma Gandhi ji. And as a Sattriya artist, I wanted to give him my offering through my dance in Sattriya style. So in that year, I came up with a concept of short dance film, and I took Adi Kavi Sri Narsimehta, Vaishnava Janato, and our great Vaishnava saint Srimant Sankardev's Borgit, amalgamated the two of them, which, you know, sings the very essence of Gandhian philosophy and Gandhian values. It talks about humanity, it talks about love. Vaishnava Janato influenced Gandhiji, and you know, Kukuro Srigala, the Borgit that we have, sings the exact things, the exact values that are spoken by Narsi Mehta ji and upheld by Gandhi ji. So what better way to give him a tribute through Sattriya dance?
Now, when you work on a sort of historical character situation, how much of the metaphor do you lose?
In the process of translating any original text, be it a poem or any historical character, we lose in the process of translation a bit of its essence. What I see that in these two songs, the essence of Gandhian philosophies and values have not been lost. So the very essence of Gandhian philosophies and values are held very nicely in these two songs, and we have tried to use metaphors through Sattriya dance in these 8 minutes and showcase not only the Sattriya dance but amalgamate with Gandhian philosophies and values. In today's time, I think this short film holds a lot of value. Not only in today's time, I think in generations to come, this short film will always be relevant because it teaches about the Gandhian philosophies and values which have taught so many countries, so many world leaders, which have inspired so many world leaders like Aung San Suu Kyi, Nelson Mandela, and so many world leaders. So I think this film holds value, is relevant even in times to come. For example, tolerance that we have lost nowadays. Love. It is so easy to hate but so difficult to love. Accepting and valuing not only just our culture or our beliefs but also the other person's beliefs and value systems.
You are watching conversations with filmmakers and dancers featured in the curation Direction Northeast, dance films from a land deeply loved.
Utpal Dattaji, such a pleasure to see you and be able to speak to you. And I must compliment you on this excellent film. My question that I want to start with for you is, you are essentially not a filmmaker, you're a journalist. You make your films out of passion. What is the reason that made you shift gears, particularly the gear that led you into dance films?
Yes, I was a working journalist for many years, and I am a part-time filmmaker, and making film is my part of my passion. And how I and why I made this film. Once I got a chance to listen to a lecture by Archana Sethi, and she spoke about DanzLenz, dance for the camera. And that sentence, particular concept, touched me like anything, because as a dance lover, I used to see dance in films and stages. And when she spoke that we can compose dance only for camera, or we can sense our point of view according to the camera to watch and enjoy dance, it will be a different experience. And she showed some films to us. And then I tried to think how we can videograph or cinematograph dance in a different angle. That particular line inspired me to do something on dance. So in my short film Borgit, I used a small portion of dance, and it was done by Prerana Bhuya. It was a brilliant work, not the film, but her work. And I find that my thinking of dance is synchronizes with Prerana. So later, during the past lockdown period, we thought we should do something which we could do from our own, with our own equipments, and experimenting our own talent with those technical equipments. And I talked to her, and she was very open to my ideas. And though I am not a choreographer, neither I have knowledge about dance, only I am a dance lover. And she listened to me, and ultimately she made it, she did it.
Saikia's poems, you are able to carry this film to large and many audiences, which are then enriched not just by the poetic sensibilities of Saikia, but also by the grand visuals that you have created, where dance is foregrounded against a city landscape. What has been the reaction of people to this sort of a film?
The visual contrast was itself in the prose. It was on the text. So we take the clue from the prose, and while I was discussing the prose with Prerana, I told her that we need a backdrop of a city in the first part and some inside place, might be inside of a room or something close environment at the end. And she did it from her own, and she gave me immense pleasure with her videography, with her selection of the spot, and her way of visualizing it. At the time of editing, our editor Diganta Sharma, he edited some light and he used one spotlight like that. But for the entire work, credit goes to Prerana.
What a fabulous film, Peruna. What a fabulous film. So, my question to you particularly is about how you chose upper body movements, whether it was hand movements or torso movements or hastaks. What beautiful and powerful hastaks you created, or the eye or the head. No footwork really, to be able to capture the essence of this poem. So, what made you choose this, and what were the impulses on you as you created for this film?
When Utpal approached me with this particular prose from Twilight at the Port by Dr. Bhavendranath Saikia, he gave me absolute free hand to choreograph it. The lines that were selected was about a big city life and its people, and the prose was very, very powerful. While making the dance film, a lot was going on at the same time, like the recitation of the prose, the music, the subtitles, and the dance, and I felt that no one thing should overpower the other. There had to be that perfect balance, and moving too much would take away attention from the poem. This was shot by me during the very first lockdown in 2020, and stepping out of the house at that time was absolutely forbidden. I live in the heart of Guwahati, that is the GS Road, and what more could have more potential than the terrace overlooking the city itself. And here I'd like to answer why I did not use footwork. Well, it was intentional. Because using footwork and lower body movement was particularly not possible because of the space constraint and the triangular roof. Saikia sir's words were so powerful that no amount of dancing could express it. So I just let my emotions flow through the choreography, instead of me choreographing the words, I let the words choreograph me. In the end, you'll hear the words in Assamese that mean a lot of things like civilization, culture, chivalry, nayak, etc., and so on and so forth. And for those, to describe those words, I liberally used hastas from my classical training. Utpal was very clear when he told me that he wanted a contemporary element in the dance. And I'm no expert in contemporary dancing, so what I decided that I should use my classical training in a very contemporary way, and that is how the film came together.
You are watching conversations with filmmakers and dancers featured in the curation Direction Northeast, dance films from a land deeply loved.
What a privilege to be talking to both of you, Sadhna and Preeti. It's just so wonderful to see this film. My question is to both of you. Why did you think of this film as a small documentary on Lai Haroba? What made you think that there was a need to unpack Lai Haroba?
Preeti and I had already done a project on Lai Haroba in the sense that we brought it out of Manipur for the first time and presented it here in Delhi and in Chennai in the presence of all living great gurus of that time. They were flown down to Delhi. In the next 4-5 years, we lost a couple of gurus, and Preeti was very perturbed. And she said that if we didn't document the traditions as well as the gurus and what they have to pass on to the future generations, we would lose out on a lot. And so we decided to make this film together with Preeti as the subject expert and me as the director. And we didn't go around looking for sponsorship because we didn't have that kind of time. So we funded the project ourselves.
I really don't know anything about filmmaking. And if it wasn't for Sadhna, I don't know how I would have done it. So I think we are a team here where Sadhna has her expertise in the camera direction and how to go about making a film, since she has this wonderful experience. And I think that my contribution was from the tradition side, because I have been in this tradition for a long time. And Maharaj Kumari Binodini has passed down the aesthetics of this Manipuri tradition to me. So I think this all helped in making this film. Really, it's a total teamwork.
We have documented every ritual, every aspect of every ritual of Lai Haroba, and with subtitles and the meanings, etc. And this footage goes on for many, many hours. So for research students, that is what they can see. Then for practitioners who want to go through the rituals and see, not entire details and all, for them we have a 1 hour film as well as a half an hour film. And then by way of introduction to Lai Haroba, we have a 10-minute film. So it all depends on which version you want to see.
Dance in Manipur fascinates me. It is aesthetic, delicate, beautiful, and yet in many parts, the dance is actually a dance of resistance. It's also a dance of hope under difficult times. How does your dance speak to you?
Thank you, Arshia, for this question. It's a very important question. The unique feature in Manipur is that dance and music has been form of worship from time immemorial. Before even the Chetar or Kumbaba, which was the royal document which was introduced in the courts of the king in 33 AD, there were these manuscripts which mentioned that dance and music was a form of worship. And this has come down the ages even today from the Lai Haroba to the Ras Leela tradition. So we find that the religion or the worship and the daily lives of the people have merged totally through dance and music. And you have this every occasion which is celebrated through dance and music, whether it is the birth ceremony or the death ceremony or the ear piercing ceremony of a child or the wedding or the marriage ceremony. Every occasion is celebrated through dance and music. Now, this has become part of the lives of the people of Manipur.
My last question is to you, Sadhna. I know you to be a Rasik for so long, and yet you have this amazingly detached eye when you're making a film. So, what would be the tips you want to give to younger filmmakers who may love dance, and actually you make a dance film only when you really love dance? How to keep a detached eye intact?
Arshia, one needs to be detached yet passionate about the subject. You can't be clinical about what you are filming. Your love for the subject has to seep through and find a connect with the audience. Having said that, as a Rasika, you love the subject. But as a filmmaker, you do your research thoroughly and decide clinically what is important and which aspects to highlight. You discuss it threadbare with your team, especially with your cinematographer, who has to translate your visions, your ideas into visuals. Discuss and plan your shoot meticulously and clinically, and then shoot with a lot of love, with creativity, and with a lot of patience, so that the essence seeps through.
Kri Foundation would like to thank all the artists, dancers and filmmakers, and the Pragjyoti International Dance Festival for giving us an opportunity to share our love for dance films and curate this DanzLenz.